Good evening. Welcome to Oconee County Board of Commissioners meeting. Today is Tuesday, April the 28th, 2026. After a moment of silence, we're going to ask Daniel Haygood to lead us in the pledge. Please stand. Thank you. First item of business be to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
Second. We have a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. First item on the agenda is statements and remarks from citizens. This is for anything not on tonight's agenda. Just as when you come up front, just state your name and address, and then you can make a comment on anything not on the agenda. Mic is open.
My name's Sam Edgman, 1206 Wilkes Farm Court, Pebble Creek. I'm here to talk about the bypass. Look forward to sharing some information with you. I work for a company called the SAS Institute. It's one of the leading statistical software companies in the world. And I'm a consultant for them, which means I go out and work for companies all around the world on analytical matters. I've worked for Apple, helped them solve their problems. I've worked for Procter & Gamble. I've worked for the White House. I've worked for the President of the United States. And I mentioned these projects because I could list a lot more. Because each of those projects started with the wrong thing in mind. They started going down the path that was wrong to start with. So when I started thinking about this project, the bypass project, I was concerned because I was worried about noise. And I looked into that and the distance from some of the proposed plans to my house, the noise would be higher than what it should be. And I thought about air pollution. And again, from the distance of some of the proposed plans to my house, it's more than what it should be. But what really got my attention was when I started looking at the GDOT website, looking at data, which is what I do for a living. I looked at data to try to understand the problem better. And what I found as I looked at data and I considered that we have a truck problem, or that we perceive we have a truck problem going through Watkinsville, I started looking at the numbers there. What I found was 1%. 1%. The bypass will alleviate 1% of the traffic that flows through Watkinsville. And I would like to share with any of you guys that information, how I derive those numbers. It's not hard. The data's from GDOT, it's valid data. But that's what the bypass will achieve for Watkinsville. So I think about, is 1% worth $20 to $30 million? And is 1% worth destroying some really beautiful farmland? That's a big deal. That farmland will never come back. It'll never come back. And you got to consider other things that could actually help the problem. Like a rail that will open next week from Savannah up to Gainesville that's designed to alleviate traffic. I don't know how many people know about that. That's a big deal. You know, a rail running from the site that we're concerned with by us to alleviate traffic. So that 1% is not going to be 1% in another year or so. It's going to be less than that. But people will say sometimes, well, we got to do something. We got to do something because traffic is bad. Well, I really think the intersections that bookend our town is a lot of the problem. The intersections that bookend our town is a big part of the problem. And I really hope that there'd be some support for improving those intersections before we build a bypass that can do some real damage to our end of Oconee County. Again, I welcome the opportunity to show you all what I do with data and to show you all what I found with this data. I want you to believe that it will affect traffic by 1%. I want you to feel it. It's not good to go into a problem without the whole story. Thank you all very much.
Hi, everybody. My name's Dana Sullivan. I am at 3876 Rolling Meadows Road. Like Sam, I am also a scientist. I am an agronomist, a soil scientist by trade. I also do a lot of remote sensing and mapping work, so I look at spatial data. So when I met Sam, we started looking at this information together. And what I would put forth to you, and I'll try to keep my end of this very quick. What I would put forth to you is the risk worth the reward? And what I mean by that is that $30 million invested in a bypass that may not serve the purpose it's meant to serve risks the fracturing of generational farmland, the very people that built our community. If you look on the Fish and Wildlife Services, we have a dozen different kinds of migratory birds and endangered species that live there and the endangered habitat that exists. There are federal easements, which means that our federal government is vested in some of that area to protect it so that it doesn't become developed. And what I'll leave you with is our own county comp plans that are designed to maintain the culture and the community that we've built here and that's been thriving for generations, and fracturing those or letting that erode, what risk does that bring? You know, you start here and the destructive solution before evaluating, adaptive use of the infrastructures we currently have first, that we go to a destructive solution that may not align with the county comp plans that exist for our community. And that's what I'll leave you with. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Amanda McCoy Ledford. I live at 1881 Old Salem Road, I guess Watkinsville technically, out in Farmington. You all know me from my work with Heritage Park. I am a community organizer, as I like to say, and I wanted to share with you why I picked Heritage Park. I saw farms in my town being lost to development, and I started looking for a way to help, because I believe that I grew up here. I've been here kindergarten through 12th grade, and I believe that farms are an important part of our heritage. And so I looked at Heritage Park and I said, if this was really an asset to our agricultural community, then more horse people would move here, more farms would stay farms. And I share that to say, because I want you guys to know how passionate I am about keeping agriculture a big part of South Oconee. So I'm here on behalf of the bypass. Thank you.
My name is Lori Breedlove. I think it's safe to say that the data speaks for itself, that I can't see how it's worth destroying these farmlands, destroying our homes, pushing farmers out of our community to reduce traffic by maybe 1%. This is not the right solution. Sorry. There's so much at risk here, so much more than our individual homes and our farmland, our community, and our quality of life is at risk. I know that if my husband, William, was still here today, he would be standing here instead of me. He would be so mad. I'm sure you all know. He would be doing everything in his power to stop this. Will could not have been more proud to be born and raised in Oconee. He was always quick to point out his mother's paintings to a stranger at the bank, or proclaim his grandfather, William H. Breedlove's accomplishments as a hardworking farmer and statesman. And if given the opportunity, hope to follow in his footsteps someday. Will's favorite quote was said by Sir Isaac Newton. "If I have seen further, it's only by standing on the shoulders of giants." His roots here meant more to him than anything, informed every decision that he made, and shaped his view of the future prosperity of our farm and of Oconee. But now it's my duty to stand here before you in his stead. The pace of development that we have seen over the last 5 years is not what our county or the city of Watkinsville stands for. New buildings pop up seemingly overnight. Is that what we want as a community? Based on what I saw from the 2026 Citizen Satisfaction Survey, the answer is no. What I saw was people saying, stop, slow down, revitalize what we already have. So, commissioners, given the data that we have now, the voices of your constituents, I request that you stand with us and say no, at this point in Oconee's history, a bypass traversing the south end of the county is not warranted. And I think a written statement from each of you and the board or the board of the whole would go a long way at the DOT to preserve the values of Oconee that it was built on and that we all still believe today. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? With that, we'll move to statements and comments from commissioners.
Mr. Chairman, give my thoughts with, I think we don't have it on the agenda tonight, but I think these folks have some strong data points, not just an opinion or emotion or anything like that, and I certainly have mine. What I would ask is that for our next meeting, that this be placed on the agenda. I do agree with them. I think there needs to be a vote by the commission. Because I think, I will say it this way, it may be Watkinsville wants a bypass. I've never been a party to any of their meetings or listened to them, or have I seen any kind of data from DOT. But we're going to deal with that decision one way or another. If it goes, where that road goes, I see no merit for it going into the south. What I've seen, that number 2 and 3. I don't even know if all the things that could be done from technology, the gentleman talks about the fixing the intersections. I've seen nothing that says that couldn't help. I've not seen anything really about the data point. I've heard the thing about 9% is truck traffic, but it's kind of like taking one for the team, but you're not on the team. You don't get a bat, you don't get a glove, you just watch everything. So I would ask us to place it on the agenda and we can have some discussion. And if it's to the agreement of the five of us to cast a vote. And instead, I made my opinion to the lady outside, I didn't agree with the roads going to the south, that 2 and 3. But I do think because we are the county government elected by these folks, that we ought to make a county statement as to what our feelings are on the going deep into the county. Because I'll tell you, I do fear, I'm not a Oconee County resident long time like you guys are, but I have voted for just about every one of the farmland protection when we paid the money to protect those acres. And I see this as a big threat to the south end of the county. And certainly there will be people, if that happens, they will want to change comp plan. Things that we have done our best to protect the county from having. So I really would ask that we have it on the agenda. We can discuss it, and maybe some information will come to us for the next meeting. Because I think this one's critical. A lot of things aren't too critical, but I think this one has just a lot of things that could happen, and we won't be able to fix it. There will be no fixing to it. Stuck with it, and I'll say this too. For DOT to be working on this, we don't even get to look at the pictures till about every time everybody else does. And we're the ones that are going to take the hit on anything. I think that's poor. That's poor government. We should have been from every kind of discussion they had. We were seeing their diagrams and so forth. But I just think that this one's a big one. Not going to get it back if the mistake is done. You're not going to be able to fix it. So that's my.
Thank you. Anybody else have any comments?
Yeah, I don't have a problem putting it on the agenda either. And, looking at some of the options.
Mr. Chairman, thank to Mark and Mark for being brief, leave it to Chuck and me to stretch it out a little bit. I want to thank the citizens that came tonight to speak to us. I think it's very important. And I know a lot of people left the DOT hearing disappointed because they thought it was going to be a kind of a town hall format where you could get up and speak your mind. But as y'all quickly learned, it was not. And unfortunately, I knew what it was going to be like, so I didn't have any expectation. Y'all had an expectation to be heard. I think you have. I know that the deadline for public comments has been extended, to May the 11th? Is that correct, that you can make online comments? And of course, y'all, I'm sure already have, and I encourage, the media to make sure that the rest of the citizens know that deadline has been extended. You are right, Chuck. We are the voice of, all the citizens of Oconee County, but we're also in a quandary here because we have the the government within inside the city limits of Watkinsville pushing for something that they want the people in South Oconee to solve for them. And I understand that. I'd be in the same way if they were looking to go through my backyard. I think the comment that Dana made about the comp plan, that comp plan has been around a long time. And, you know, the land use map, if you look at it, especially if you look at it in color, you'll see that the entire south end of the county is either dark green or light green. That's rural areas or agricultural preservation. And I think we need to go on record to remind the Department of Transportation that this is a comp plan that was decided for by the citizens of Oconee County for a number of decades, and it has not changed. That segment of it, I can't say for the rest of the county, but South Oconee has stayed dark green or light green for a number of years. And I think it would be appropriate for us to go on record with a resolution or whatever to point out to the DOT that this is something that the citizens of Oconee County has wanted for years, to leave this part of the county ag preservation. These are generational farms, but they're also working farms. When I went down to visit with Laura and Dana and Brandon, somebody was out there fluffing hay. I guess it was on Ernestine's Malcolm's farm, but they were out there fluffing hay. I don't know who it was. I know it wasn't Brandon. Was it Brandon? No, I didn't think it was you, Brandon. But so these are not only generational farms, but they're working farms. They're growing hay or they're growing timber, and excuse me, some of them may have had some livestock on them. But I think that it's appropriate for us to request that the city perhaps do a traffic study for these intersections. That's a good point that you bring up, Sam, is, you know, as they looked at what they could do, you know, to fix, you know, some of the problem within the city limits. You're also correct. The inland port that's going to open up in Gainesville, I know that it was built for this reason, was to move these container through to the ports. And I'm looking forward to that being a success, because that means less trucks on all Georgia roads, because it comes at a cost. But I think the main thing we need to remind the Department of Transportation is that this county for a number of years has supported farmland preservation through.
Time's up.
That's all right. I don't get I got more than 3 minutes, all right. I think they need to be reminded that the taxpayers of Oconee County, with taxpayers' money, supported farmland preservation. I mean, I think we're close to 1,000 acres that have been put into farmland preservation. And that's, I don't know the numbers, but I know it probably runs into the millions of dollars that the county taxpayers have spent to preserve farmland. The most recent farm was the Nedza farm down on the Colon Ferry Road. So, and I think Lloyd is part of your farm in that same, yeah. So that there's another reason why we should be cognizant of the fact that this is what the folks want. And I think it would be appropriate, Mr. Chairman, that we find some wording in a resolution to convey our feelings to the Georgia Department of Transportation, communicate to our governor, to our representative that's here tonight, our senator, the DOT board. I know Jamie Boswell is our district rep. I think it would be appropriate, and even Russell Murray, the DOT guy. I think they all need to know that. So, but again, I want to thank y'all, and I would encourage you to come back next Tuesday night. And but Sam, also, if you got that documentation, please send it out to us in email format. I'd like to see it, and I appreciate you doing that.
All right, thank you. If you do come back next Tuesday night, we'll have our first budget hearing. We'll also have our second budget hearing on May 19th with a vote on June the 2nd. Also remind everyone, if you're on the county water system, the state has declared a level 1 drought. So we need to be looking on the website and follow the rules that Adam sent out on how to conserve some water. With that, we'll move to our first item, which is discuss the award for the OVP tennis court expansion project. Lisa?
Good evening. As you all are aware, we issued a invitation to bid back in the fall, and that was closed on September 25th. It was extended to like October 30th. All the bids that were received were approximately 2 million over budget. So what we had done earlier this year was do a RFP for a design build for those 16 tennis lighted courts at OVP. And with that, when those bids closed, we received 3 submittals. And the committee reviewed those individually. All those reviews were sent to procurement to summarize those. And as a result, the staff is recommending Headley Construction Corporation for the design build of the tennis court expansion project with the necessary budget amendments for the life of the project. This funding will come from the Parks and Recreation SPOS 2021, and it is not to exceed $5.5 million.
Any questions for commissioners on this item?
You know, I just didn't realize tennis courts cost that much, but I'd be so glad that we will get that done.
And that's 2 million less than the first
I
run.
know.
I mean, for the benefit of the public, should maybe explain how we valued and engineered this?
So,
What did we
we've
do
already
different?
we did some work on figuring out where the rock is. So spreading those out and moving them in different locations was a big part of it. There was a lot of haul off of dirt, so I think some of the elevations will be adjusted so there's not as much waste. And maybe some work in the retention pond may not have to have as much done there. But they'll keep digging in, so they'll keep working with it to make sure it meets all the standards. So we got all the courts we had promised, taking care of the existing ones with lighting and resurfacing, and also the restroom facility. All the check boxes being clicked, so.
Plus, we got pickleball. This will take care of that.
Once we get these done, yes.
Just hold on. Do you need a motion or just put on the?
We're just gonna do consent agenda unless anybody wants it separate. Okay, all right. Do we have any public comment on this item? Okay. Next item is our third quarter FY 26 financial update. Melissa?
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening. As Chairman mentioned, this is the third quarter update. So we are going through March 31st with the financial information of our fiscal year 2026. And we will take a look at our general fund or operating revenues and expenses for Oconee County, as well as capital expenses and projects. Look at some of our sales tax data for the third quarter, as well as our Water Resources Enterprise Fund revenues and expenses as well. I can get this to change for you. Might not be working. Do I need to point it towards you? Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Very good. So looking first at our general fund operating revenues, currently at 37.6 million, which is close to 82% collected to our amended budget. The percentages of actuals to budget are kind of consistently used through the presentation. And during third quarter, kind of the benchmark set would be 75% through the year. But of course, not everything is collected or paid out evenly over the course of the year. So we'll talk about some of those adjustments as well. So to look at some details in the revenues, we have them listed here by source of funds. The first being taxes at 83% collected. This does include real property taxes, our local option sales taxes, amongst others. Collected percentage looks good and on target to meet budget for the year there. Charges for services at 66% is lower than normal. We do have included in this line item our reimbursement for the school resource officer program. So with less expenditures in that program comes less of a reimbursement. So the fact that this revenue line item is short just means that we have less expenses that it's offsetting. So I'm not worried about the charges for services here. That program is running under budget, and that is due to the current level of staffing. Licenses and permits, intergovernmental revenues, and fines and forfeitures, all on track to meet budget for the year. Miscellaneous revenues as well. Other financing sources, we'll see those come in the fourth quarter. And investment income at 90%. The amended budget and investment income is conservative. We try to keep that conservative and do think that we'll exceed that number by the end of fourth quarter. And looking at how those revenues are being used in third quarter expenditures, year to date are at 29.6 million, which is just at 63% spent for the year. We'll look at details by department, but I do want to mention our operations are right on target or a little less than. Personnel at 72% spent, services and supplies at 65% spent, and capital outlays at 38% spent. Debt service and other costs right at 75% in third quarter, and then other financing uses only at 6%, but those are transactions that occurred during the fourth quarter of each year. So looking at the expenditures by department, I'll point out a few that kind of hover well below or above that 75% mark. Within the commission budget at 80% spent, that line item does contain our legal fees, so that's the majority of that budget. Finance at 51% does have one of the fourth quarter transfers to other funds. So that won't happen until then the last quarter of the year. That is where we reserved the $500,000 that was previously used for debt services. Now that that's paid off, we reserved that for future capital projects. Law enforcement at 65%. Again, that contains the school resource officer program. So that's the reason that that expense line is down to 65%. Juvenile court at 67, they just have some operating budget that they have not used. District attorney has a line item in their budget for personnel that has been unused up to this point. So there is $150,000 that's obligated for assistant district attorney position. Funds remain unspent to date. And the remaining departments are listed here. Board of Elections at 67% with the upcoming election in the fourth quarter. I feel like they are in a good position to move forward into that. Public Works at 53%. Their budget does include grant-funded projects. And those grant-funded projects have partially been spent to date, but there's still a good bit remaining. So that budget is elevated, making that percent spend look lower than typical. They do currently have some savings in repairs and maintenance and technical services. They can reserve those for the fourth quarter. And this department also does have a transfer to other funds in the last quarter of the year related to our sanitation. Operations at 59%. Again, repairs and maintenance and general supply usage just in under budget. This department does include our fleet maintenance department, and they have one final vehicle that's been procured for fiscal year 26, but that still is pending. So the year-to-date expenditure is not included here yet. Public safety at 41% does have a fourth quarter year-end transfer to support our 911 services. Community development contains our debt service payments, and those are made based on a schedule, so they don't follow the traditional 75% third quarter look. This line item also does have a fourth quarter transfer out to our Civic Center that's not reflected here yet. And lastly, park programs, again, a fourth quarter transaction where we allocate part of the cost of running the parks to the programs, and that expenditure is not reported. So all of that to say, we are on target right where we should be for third quarter, and maybe even a little bit better on some of the operational side of expenditures. Specifically, we'll look at capital. I mentioned that that was 38% spent to the year in the general fund. This is the original budget that was planned. And since last quarter, the update here is that the last item, the netting for the Veterans Park, that project has been completed. And amended since the adoption of the budget, those items are listed here. Since last quarter, we have completed the water heater replacement in the jail. You can see the status of those two public works projects. Those are the LRA grant funded projects that are included in the budget and not yet spent in full. And the last three items were added during the mid-year budget amendments and are either in process or complete. That's the Herman C. Michael signage, two HVAC replacements in the gym, and then the backstop netting at Bogart Sports Complex. And then finally, from general fund, we have the vehicles, which are also in our capital category. Since last presentation, just an update that we have procured and purchased the transit van that was amended for, so that has been received. And the F-750 dump truck that's still on order is the one final vehicle that we're still waiting on to come in during this fiscal year that I mentioned earlier. Okay, outside of the general fund, our capital project fund, this is the original planned for items, and the desk consoles at E911 Center project has been completed. And that's since last quarter's presentation. And amended here, all of these were added in the third quarter, either by your specific approval or the mid-year budget amendment. So we have the courthouse renovation, which is currently in process. Jail consoles, that project came from savings from the E911 consoles, and the jails have also been completed. The walk-in cooler replacement, the UPS replacement at one of the towers, as well as the OVP exterior renovation have been added. All of those which are complete, except for the exterior renovation at the park. And I believe that that is close to being started. Okay, looking at sales taxes, we have our local option sales tax. This revenue goes into the general fund, that tax source of revenue. Collected at $3 million for the quarter, which is an increase of just over 4% as compared to the same quarter last year. And 75% of the budget has been collected from local option sales taxes. So we think we are right on target here. Still continuing to see those quarterly increases. While they are slowing a bit, they are still increases nonetheless. Special purpose local option sales tax, revenue collected in a specific fund for capital improvements, collected at $3.3 million. Also just over 4% increase from same quarter last year, and 69% collected to budget. And transportation, related purpose restriction here at $3.1 million. This is 4.6% greater than prior year same quarter, and 74% collected for our FY26 budget as of third quarter. SPLOST projects, these are originally budgeted items. The only change here since last presentation is that we're now moving on the paving. General fund paving, LMIG portion is completed. The SPLOST component is now in process as far as the funding source goes, which will then be followed by the T-SPLOST funded portion. And SPLOST amended projects listed here. The last three items have been added in the third quarter. So re-roofing the Civic Center, as well as the exterior restoration, fire equipment turnout gear purchase, and the fire station and rescue facilities equipment is the allocated amount for the ambulances and equipment. Also of note, the access control animal shelter and civic center has been completed, as well as the multi-use fields protective netting at Veterans Park. T-Splosh projects, only change here is that the paving is now in process. And no amendments specifically for capital and T-Splosh to cover. So water resources is our largest enterprise fund. So their revenues, expenditures are a key part of Oconee County. Third quarter revenues at 12.7 million, which is right at 51%, between 50 and 51% collected. I will say that the amended budget does include transfers in from SPLOST for SPLOST-related projects and GFA debt proceeds. We currently don't have either of those items in our revenue. We haven't actually had any transactions through third quarter. So that budget compared to revenue is a little bit off. If I remove those items from the revenue so that we can look truly at operations, we're collected at 77%. Sewer sales are on target with where they should be for budget. Water sales, we're seeing have flattened a little bit and are slightly behind. However, this second and third quarter can be slower for water, so we're going to keep an eye on those through fourth quarter. That is compensated by the capacity, connection, water availability, and installation fees as well, which are one-time charges and not recurring. All right, and expenses at 11.3 million, right at 38% to budget. Again, here, this budget contains a lot of large capital projects, and the spending has not occurred on those yet. So we'll take a look more closely at this by categories. Personnel at 70% spent, purchase services at 62% spent, and supplies at 71% spent. On purchase services, we do have some decommissioning projects and Georgia Department of Transportation's relocated in that budget, which should be spent more heavily in the fourth quarter. So we'll see that percentage spent increase. You see capital here at 17% spent, and we'll take a look at those capital items individually. Depreciation is a year-end item. Debt services are being paid for the scheduled due dates. We're currently at 67%. And other costs have started coming in the fourth quarter as well. These are the original capital items budgeted, all related to design services for these projects. And these design services and the projects are still in process. And these are amendments that you've approved throughout the year for those same related projects, design services or construction or otherwise, all of which are still in process. The water resources projects tend to be more long-term, so there's not a whole lot of change in the activity other than we're still moving forward, but all still in process is the same as the third quarter update. So that does conclude the presentation that I had prepared for you, but I am happy to take any questions or hear any comments that you have.
Any questions from Alyssa on this? Thank you. Next item is discuss the IT cabling replacement for the courthouse upgrade. Justin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. As you are aware, the courthouse is currently undergoing interior renovations to transform it into a holistic judicial center on all the floors. As part of the overall look, it became apparent that the entire cabling system within the courthouse really needed to be redone. It has multiple decades of cabling laid over the top of each other. So we took a look at it. The request here is a true change order as requested by us, the owner, to have a holistic and a workable interior cabling system. It's the central hub of our IT network. Total cost was over 3 phases, would be $136,248.85 as part of the addition to the contract with Kevin Price Construction. What this would do is modernize and bring the entire cabling system of our network hub up to current standard and in a very logical manner. We would rather do this now while the entire building is under renovations as opposed to a future use that would take out walls. Happy to answer any questions.
We do have the money already budgeted in project. This is just adjusting the contract with Kevin Price Construction. Any questions for Justin on this item? Be all right for consent. Do we have any public comment? Here none, we'll move on to the next item, which is discuss the SARS donation request for OVP. Lisa?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, and just for the benefit of Melissa, I would like for the previous item to be for the life of the project with any budget amendments as necessary.
Any objection to that change? All right, thank you.
The Sons of the American Revolution had approached me about donating a tree for Oconee Veterans Park, which we were happy to accept. As we discussed it further, they would also like to add a paved walkway toward that tree with a bench at the end. So the bench would be right in front of the Liberty tree. That placement would be directly across from what the Daughters of the American Revolution did with the Patriot Plaza, is near the Veterans Memorial. So basically, that little bit of concrete that goes to the Patriot Plaza, it connects to our walking path, and it would be directly across from that on the other side of the walking path. Probably be approximately about 8 feet of a sidewalk going to the bench and then the tree. So we're just asking for acceptance of that. And in addition, will be responsible for the installation of that and all the funding to take care of that project.
Any questions for Lisa on this item? Be all right for consent? Thank you. Do we have any public comment? Next item is discuss the local emergency operations plan. DJ?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Before you is over a 100-page document that I assume you probably don't want me to read to you regarding the local emergency operations plan. In short, this plan details the expectations for response to critical events within the county. And those expectations include capabilities and what the stakeholders agree to do, but there are also things that we may not be capable of, and those are addressed as well. This will also enable us to continue compliance with national incident management with GEMA Homeland Security. Is the foundation for our response and is one of the many things that we have to demonstrate for grant compliance. So I'll be happy to answer any further questions.
Do we have any questions? We are for consent agenda? Do we have any public comment? Next one, we'll move on to the renewal of Code Red.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next on the agenda is our Code Red. That's our mass notification system for communicating externally as well as internally. That's a 5-year contract, $7,500 for the first year, $9,000 annually. This allows us to reach a multitude of residents in specific areas or countywide. It also comes with a weather reporting component upon being opted in. Just a handful of numbers here. With our opted in subscribers, we have about 6,300 subscribers. And that's one set of them. We have almost all the county employees, whether it's cell phones or desk phones, emails, opted in for redundancy in our texting. And then for our iPaws, which I have another item on that, but for our wireless emergency alerts, less than 20% of the public opts out of those, but that allows us to reach an unlimited number of people if there's a catastrophe that we need to rapidly communicate with them about that. So without any questions.
Any questions on this item? You all right for consent? Any public comment? Then we'll move on to the renewal of iPaws.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last is an agreement with FEMA for iPaws. It's Integrated Public Alert and Warning System. I just talked about that with the wireless alerts, emergency alerts. That allows us to continue to be able to send those alerts. Think about the Amber Alerts with the very obnoxious tone that are able to get critical events and alerts across to us whenever they're warranted within some very specific criteria.
Any questions for CJ on these? Thank you. You all right for consent agenda? Do we have any public comment? Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Next time is discuss the GDOT utility aid contract agreement for State Route 53 at Ray's Church and Malcolm Bridge Road.
Good evening, Commissioners. GDOT has submitted a contract item agreement package for water facility adjustments associated with the proposed roundabout project at State Route 53, Malcolm Bridge Road, and Ray's Church Road. Under the agreement, GDOT will include the county's water relocation work in its roadway construction contract. The estimated relocation cost total is $375,805. GDOT will participate in 25% of that, leaving the 75% full responsibility to Oconee County. The county must execute the agreement and complete the attached resolution before returning the package to GDOT. Financial impact, I've stated the estimated total. GDOT utility aid share 25%. That'll be $93,951.25. The Oconee County share is 75%, and that's going to be $281,853.75. Recommendation is consider approval for GDOT contract item agreement. This request includes all necessary budget amendments up to the contract amount for the life of the project.
Any questions for Adam on that?
Where does this go?
It's coming from GDOT. That utility aid is state funded.
The whole thing?
281.
Just 25% of it. So that 93,000 number, that's what's coming from the state.
Yeah, we got the rest of it.
That's right.
That's what I'm asking.
We have funding in a depreciation account. We call R&E. We have capacity funds. We have several different options to choose from. So as far as the pots of money, we got it covered. It's just we got to get it. Right.
Any other questions? Any objection to consent agenda? All right, do we have any public comment on this item? Now we're going to discuss the Adura Rapid Mix evaluation for the Upper Oconee Basin Water Authority.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Ardora has submitted a proposal to the Upper Oconee Basin Water Authority to provide an independent third-party review and comparative evaluation of the rapid mix alternatives for the Bear Creek Water Treatment Plant expansion. It's going to be an expansion from 21 MGD to 42. The scope includes evaluation of applicable design criteria for each rapid mix alternative, development of a conceptual layout for a jet diffused rapid mix system, comparison of capital cost, comparison of operations and maintenance costs, a 20-year present worth analysis, review of maintenance of plant operations during construction, evaluation of expected treatment performance. Recommendation is to consider approval of Ardora's proposal. Financial impact to us, total fee is $32,000. Oconee County share is $7,618.88. This request includes all necessary budget amendments up to the contract amount for the life of the project.
Any questions on this item? You all right for consent? Do we have any public comment? Next item is discuss the reimbursement to GDOT for the project 0013763.
All right, so this item concerns a GDOT project at State Route 316 and Dallas Mill Road and the associated relocation cost of Oconee County water facilities. In 2025, the board previously considered this matter and approved use of GDOT's contractor to perform the water line relocation work. The supporting estimate presented at that time was $184,550, and the county acknowledged it would bear full financial responsibility for the utility relocation cost. GDOT has now issued an invoice to us on April 13th of 2016 in the amount of $278,125. According to GDOT, this reflects the actual bid cost for the work included in the construction contract. The executed contract item agreement provides that Oconee County is responsible for 100% of this cost. Recommendation is consider approval of reimbursement to GDOT for project 0013763. And this request also includes all necessary budget amendments up to the contract amount for the life of the project.
Any questions on this item?
That money comes from the same spot.
Yeah,
What was the question before I asked?
we
Where
got
does
the
that money
money.
come from?
Same spot.
Comes from the, yeah.
I'm just curious if, did they do additional work or was just same work?
No, sir, I evaluated the quantity sheet, so quantities didn't change. It's just actually the biggest, I guess the biggest component was the actual, price of the pipe increased quite a bit. So, Mark, you may be more familiar, but yeah, they.
Commissioner Harden, with a lot of these GDOT projects, they typically require us to come twice, once with a primary estimate and with the agreement portion of it. And then after the bid goes out, they come back with the actual costs. In this case, the cost of a lot of the pipe exceeded what the estimate was. So this is sort of the formality to finalize the actual price. And unfortunately, it went the direction that was not favorable to us.
So the pipe size stayed the same. It's just the
It did.
increase in the cost.
It's the IP. It went up quite a bit on us, over 50%.
I know, yeah. Just bought some last week.
It's rough. Is there any more questions?
Any other questions?
Thank you.
None, you.
Appreciate it.
Excuse, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's be all right for consent agenda. Do we have any public comment? Hearing none, we'll move on to the discussion of the 2026 local road assistance application.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. The Georgia's legislature has approved supplemental funding for the local road assistance program, which is LRA for fiscal year 26. The Oconee County's portion is $924,659.79. This is very similar to the LMIG program. Staff is recommending utilization of these funds for the roundabout at Snows Mill and Cold Springs Road and Acock Road, which is currently under design. Our current estimate, it's probably 85% designed right now. Our current estimates put it at about $900,000. And this is going to be one of the larger roundabouts of the initial five that were under design, because it is a 5-leg roundabout. We are not interested in returning any excess funds to GDOT, so the recommendation would be to put the balance of it, if any, towards the resurfacing of Salem Road. Salem Road was deep patched as part of the fiscal year 26 paving program, with the idea to coming back next year with the resurfacing and topping of Salem Road, as it's one of our longer road segments. Staff's recommending going ahead and taking any excess funds on the LRA, placing it towards Salem Road, moving that forward for the resurfacing, and any balance of it using toward T-Splost. The estimate for the Salem Road resurfacing would be $1,242,076. So again, any excess would come from the LRA, balance coming from T-Splost. This would move that resurfacing forward than what would be done otherwise. So happy to answer any questions you may have. I would say if we're not moving forward, the Salem Road resurfacing would be part of the fiscal year 27 resurfacing program.
Everything you said, it'll be done before the end of this fiscal year?
Not necessarily. It would move it forward, though. It would move it into the fiscal year 26 program, which may extend past June 30th, but it would be done this calendar year, essentially. It wouldn't carry over till next calendar year.
Okay.
And again, for the benefit of GASB, I would request that all budget amendments for the life of the project be included with this request.
Any other questions? This item be all right for consent? Very good. Any public comment? The next item is discussing IGA with Athens Clarke County regarding a new ADA position. So Melissa spoke to that earlier. They had not filled the position yet. Program is we will pay up to $150,000. Position will be housed under Athens Clarke County with their benefit payroll system, and we'll just reimburse them quarterly as they bill us up to $150,000. This IGA just puts everything in writing about who's responsible for what, and will allow the DA to move forward to fill in that position and possibly an administrative assistant if needed, as long as he doesn't go past the $150,000. Be happy to answer any questions on that item. We all right for consent agenda?
Yep.
Do we have any public comment? And we'll move on to discuss the quarterly acceptance of deeds and easements.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Tonight before you, we have 3 easements. They are sanitary sewer utility easements for acceptance, and the recommendation is for the board to accept all 3.
Any questions on the deeds or easements? We all right for consent agenda for these as well? Do we have any public comment? Hearing none, we do have need of an executive session to discuss land acquisition, personnel, and litigation.
Make a motion, we go into executive session, discuss land acquisition, personnel matters, and litigation.
Second. A motion second, all in favor? Motion carries. Supposed to leave? No, you can. It's good all the time. All right, we need a motion to go back in regular session. Second. Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Commissioner Sacks.
Motion adjourned.
Second. We are adjourned.